Imagine standing next to everything you've ever dreamed of, looking at it from afar, but knowing that there are countless obstacles. This is about a young man who was born into a poor family, surrounded by hardships, and who always believed that success belonged to others. No wealth, connections, or a clear path forward. However, he firmly believed that he could change his destiny, no matter how impossible it seemed. This is not an overnight success story. This is not a story about luck, nor is it about a chance encounter that miraculously changes someone's life. It is a story of courage, failure, determination, and the determination to make dreams come true. Journeys like this remind us that all success begins with struggle, and all greatness is built from bricks. Our story begins in a struggling city, where dreams are shattered before they can be fixed. Here, survival is paramount, and ambition often seems like an unattainable luxury. But it was in this dark environment that the seeds of hope were planted. This young man, a common character in all the stories, dares to believe in something bigger. He dares to imagine his future. His circumstances do not define him, and his life is not limited by the obstacles he faces. There are no shortcuts. From a young age, he worked twice as hard as everyone else to make a living. He took odd jobs, worked long hours, and learned to make the most of every opportunity, no matter how big. His childhood wasn't one of joy or comfort, it was a learning process about resilience. Every challenge he faced taught him something new, about survival, about people, and most importantly, about himself. What motivated him? Is there a real desire to escape poverty? Was it because he wanted more than he had? Or is it something deeper, a strong desire to prove to himself and the world that he can overcome anything? His story shows that ambition is not just about wanting success, but also about persevering on the path to achieve it. As you follow his journey, you'll see how every small decision, every small problem, every painful failure adds up to something amazing. His story isn't just about financial gain. It's a story about personal growth, resilience, and the courage to believe in what can be said about everything around you. This isn't just a story about one person's life, but also a story about the power of the human spirit to overcome the insurmountable. It reminds us that greatness doesn't happen overnight. It's achieved through many small victories, hard work, and not giving up when giving up is the easiest thing to do. So as you embark on this journey, think carefully about your dreams and challenges. What would you do if it happened to you? How far would you go to rewrite your story? Because this is the untold story of a self-made millionaire. This story proves that the possibilities are endless if you dare to believe, no matter where you start. Born into a world without a silver spoon, his life began in a small, cramped house, where every day was a struggle for survival. The city was quiet, but it didn't look good. A state of calm that came with few opportunities, people worked hard to survive, and dreams of a better life were often dismissed as crazy delusions. He was the second of 4 children, raised by parents who worked hard to support their family. His father worked long hours in a factory, earning little money to pay the bills. His mother stayed home and also earned money sewing clothes for the neighbors. It wasn't much, but they spent every penny they could. From his childhood he understood the meaning of being free. While other children played, he was busy helping his mother, running errands, or looking for small ways to earn money. He would collect bottles to recycle for a little money, or run to the local market to bring people food for change. Even as a child, he felt the weight of responsibility. He knew that every little bit of money he earned would help his family survive another day. School isn't easy for him. It's not that he doesn't know it, but it is. But the intensity of poverty made it difficult to concentrate. Some days he would sit in class, focus on his hunger, try to ignore it, and concentrate on what the teacher was saying. His clothes were often patched and he was sometimes teased by classmates who didn't understand what it was like to fight. But even in those difficult times, there was something inside him that refused to give up. He may not have much, but he has a fire in his heart and ideas that take him far beyond the walls of his small town. He sat on the steps of his house, looking up at the stars, and dreaming of a life in which he could free himself from the shackles of poverty. He didn't know how to do it, but he was sure there was a way. His family couldn't afford accessories, so luxuries like books were few and far between. But when he could borrow books from teachers or neighbors, he devoured them. The stories of great inventors, leaders, and entrepreneurs fascinated him. He didn't just study their successes, he studied their failures, their struggles, and the lessons they learned along the way. He didn't see the stories as distant tales of other people, he saw them as reflections of what could happen to him. As he grew older, he began to notice something about the people around him. Many accept their circumstances and stop trying to change them. They believe that life will always be difficult, that success is for someone else. But he couldn't accept it. He refused to believe that his life was meant to be like this forever. There were times when doubts arose, when he wondered if he was stupid to dream such a big dream. He lacked the connections, the education, or the resources that seemed essential for success. But he had something else: determination. Every difficulty, every obstacle, every insult he experienced became a source of his determination. One evening, when he saw his father returning home after a long day's work in the factory, tired and exhausted, he made a promise to himself. He vowed to find a way to build a better life, not just for himself, but for his family. He didn't know how long it would take or how long it would take, but he was ready to begin. Little did he know that the journey that lay ahead would test him in ways he never imagined. It would be a journey filled with challenges, failures, and moments of despair. But it would also be a journey of growth, resilience, and triumph, a journey that would change his life forever. That night, lying on a thin mattress in the corner of the room he shared with his brothers, he said to himself, "One day this will all be different." And with that silent declaration, his journey to greatness began. It started at a time that many people may not have seen. At the age of 16, he worked part-time in a small store in the village. The salary was not enough to change, but for him it was not just a job, it was an opportunity to learn. The owner of the workshop was an old man who could fix almost anything, from radios to bicycles. While others came in, worked their hours and left, he stayed overnight, asking questions and observing the owner. He wasn't satisfied with just making money, he wanted to acquire the skills that would take him far. At first, he stumbled. His hand was unsteady and he made more mistakes than improvements. But he didn't give up, he took each failure as a lesson. Every time he read something, he learned what went wrong and how to do it better next time. Slowly but surely, he began to get used to it. One day, a customer came into the store with an old radio that seemed beyond repair. The owner, who was busy with other work, told him to try to fix it. He hesitated. What if it broke even more? However, he remembers his promise to seize every opportunity, no matter how small or uncertain. He turns on the radio, inspects the parts, and works diligently for hours. When he is finished, the radio starts working again. The customer is happy and the owner is amazed. For the first time, he feels more complete, proof that he can solve problems and gain self-esteem. At that moment, something struck him inside. He realized that even though his possessions were limited, knowledge was a tool that could open doors. From that day on, he became deeply interested in science. He even lent out books on mechanics, business, and basic finance to anyone who wanted to borrow them. He didn't just want to fix things, he wanted to know everything that was happening, including the world of money. But the road was not good. One day, as he began to dream of opening his own shop, he encountered his first big challenge. The owner of the garage announced his retirement and the business was closing. This news really surprised him. Work was his life, a place where he not only earned money but also learned. Otherwise, it would be as if the ground had slipped beneath their feet. For a moment, he decided to give up. It might be foolish to think that you could succeed in your life. But then he remembered something a shop owner once said: the difference between success and failure is not skill, but persistence. Rather than let unemployment defeat him, he decided to find another way. He started offering door-to-door repair services, starting with customers who had previously visited the shop. It's not easy. Many people would be skeptical of a little boy who said he could fix a radio or a bicycle. Some refused to believe him, while others laughed at his ideas. But he didn't let the rejection stop him. Every day he would wander around town, knocking on doors, introducing himself and helping. Little by little, the word began to spread. People began to realize that he was not just a kid with big dreams, he was a man capable of achieving results. This job was very hard. He walked several kilometers every day, carrying his tools and preparing the things that people brought him. But even though it was hard, he loved every minute of it. He wasn't just making money, he was creating something: his art, his reputation, his belief in himself. Months and years later, his little fix is still growing. They save every penny they can and cut unnecessary expenses. While his friends enjoyed their evenings or spent what little money they earned, he stayed up late reading and planning for the future. Then, one day, an idea suddenly dawned on him. People didn't just need radios and bicycles repaired. As more and more families start using modern electronic devices, the need for electrical repairmen increases. He realizes that if he can master this new skill, he could find a big market. This is scary. Learning to fix electrical problems required tools they didn't have and books they couldn't afford. But he's no longer afraid to do dangerous things. They know that every great leap begins with the first step into the unknown. He bought used electrical repair tools with the money he saved and began to learn the basics. At first, the work was overwhelming. The electrical system was more complex than anything he had worked on before. But he pushed through, determined to master his craft. He knew them well. Soon he became one of the few people in his village who could repair not only radios and bicycles, but also electrical appliances. He became very famous, and his income increased. For the first time in his life, he began to see the future he had always dreamed of. But this was just the beginning. The real journey was yet to come, and it would test him in ways he had never imagined. When he turned 20, he was no longer a boy struggling to make ends meet. His small manufacturing business had become a growing source of income, but he was not satisfied. He had big dreams and knew that a comfortable life would never lead to the success he desired. He began to think beyond just manufacturing. He realized that while he could make money from manufacturing equipment, selling it could be a great way to make a living. But breaking into this new area wasn't easy. He had no business training, capital, or leadership. He just had the desire and determination to learn. His first attempts were small. He saved up enough money to buy a used radio from a nearby town. He spent hours cleaning and repairing them, making sure they worked like new. He went door to door selling it to the families in the area where he lived. It went fast, but the radios were sold individually. With his profits, he bought many radios that repeat the route. This time he started word-of-mouth advertising, asking satisfied customers to recommend him to their friends. It worked. People started coming to him, not just for repairs, but for things he had to sell as well. But it wasn't without its problems. There were days when the radio didn't sell and there was no money. There were weeks when he doubted whether he had made the right decision. And he faced repeated criticism from people who didn't believe in his vision. "Why don't you get a real job?" they would say. But he ignored it. He learned that success requires focus, even when others doubted him. As his business grew, he began looking for ways to expand. One day, he discovered something amazing. A small group in his town wanted newer equipment, but they couldn't get it in the area. This led to an idea. What if he was the one to bring the goods? He saved every penny and took the biggest risk. He went to the nearest town, where there was a large market selling new equipment at wholesale prices. It was a daunting experience, negotiating with suppliers, choosing the right materials, and spending almost all of his savings at the same time. However, he trusted his instincts and took the risk. When he returned to his hometown, he began showing his new equipment to potential buyers. The response was better than he had expected. People were excited to see the products they had only heard about before. Because he had brought the city to them, they would never go there again. Within a few months, his business had changed. He was not just repairing equipment or selling used radios, but he was also running a small retail business. His name is known not only in his city, but also in the surrounding areas. People started to seek him out because of the quality of his products and the reliability of his services. But with growth comes new challenges. Managing inventory, handling customer orders, and competing with competitors takes up more time and effort than ever before. He works long hours, sacrificing sleep and personal time to keep his business running smoothly. Sometimes he feels sad, but he reminds himself why he started this journey. It's not just about making money, creating a life different from the one he experienced as a child. Proving to himself and all those who doubt him that he can succeed against all odds. One night, sitting in his small workshop, surrounded by tools and fixtures, he thought about how far he had come. But he knew this was only the beginning. He had laid the foundation, now it was time to aim higher. As his business grew, he began to think about the future. He knew that to be truly successful, he could not do it alone. He began to study the operations of large companies, focusing on how resources were managed, teams were formed, and performance was measured. His first step was to hire help. In the beginning, he had only one assistant, a hard-working young man from the city. It was not easy to get someone to do important tasks, especially for someone who was used to doing everything himself. But he soon realized that being allowed to work allowed him to focus on a larger goal. He began to explore new markets, spending more time there. He began traveling to other cities and looking for things that people needed but couldn't easily find. He saw a pattern: certain materials and equipment were in high demand but rarely available locally. He used his savings to expand his inventory to include these items. Soon his small shop couldn't fit all the goods. He rented a larger space and converted it into a retail store. This grand opening was a turning point. The new store received visitors and sales increased. For the first time, he felt like a real entrepreneur, not just an ordinary businessman. But success also brings new challenges. Running a store requires not only hard work but also creativity. He has to learn how to keep track of inventory, manage employees, and keep customers happy. He has made some mistakes along the way, ordering too much of one thing and underestimating the need for another, but each one has taught him an important lesson. As his business has grown, so has his reputation. People praise his quality work, his ability to deliver quality products, and excellent service. He was considered a man of faith, and that faith became one of his greatest assets. As time went by, he began to think about his hometown. He realized that if he could succeed here, he could repeat his success elsewhere. He began to open small branches in nearby towns, each modeled after his old shop. It was a risky move, but he was prepared to do it. He took out his first loan to achieve this financial expansion, a decision that frightened him. The thought of going into debt weighed heavily on his mind, but he saw it as an investment in his future. He used his money efficiently, focusing on growth while controlling costs. The gamble paid off. Within a few years, his business in the area was a success. He was not a businessman, he was a leader, a man who built an empire from scratch. But as his empire grew, so did his problems. Managing multiple locations, overseeing employees, and doing what they wanted required consistent effort. Sometimes he felt like he was carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. But every time he felt like giving up, he remembered why he started. It's not just about wealth, it's about creating a legacy. He wanted to prove to the world that no matter where you come from, no matter how hard things get, you can succeed as long as you try. With these thoughts, they continue to slowly move towards a better future. Success is often praised for its rewards, but rarely is the sacrifice that comes with it mentioned. As his business empire grew, the pressure and responsibility that came with it grew. What started as a dream of escaping poverty turned into a fulfilling journey that demanded more of him than he ever imagined. The first thing that affected his life. Long work hours meant no time to spend with family or friends. While others were relaxing in the evenings or spending time with loved ones, he was overwhelmed with paperwork, arranging schedules, or preparing for yet another move. Birthdays, holidays, and brief moments of joy often passed by. He didn't resent these sacrifices, he knew they were necessary for the life he was building. But over time, he began to feel the weight of her death. He often wondered, am I giving up too much to achieve my goals? The stress of several business ventures had begun to take its toll on his health. He had always prided himself on his courage, but even solid foundations can crumble under pressure. He was exhausted from skipping meals to meet deadlines, losing sleep over financial worries, and constantly rushing around. Some days he didn't have the strength to get out of bed, but his thoughts kept him from returning. Human perception adds some complications. While many admired his success, others were suspicious or jealous of him. Rumors began to circulate about how he ran his business, how he treated his employees, and even the source of his wealth. None of this was true, but the rumors were enough to make one wonder if his efforts were appreciated. One of the most difficult moments came when an old friend accused him of forgetting his roots. "You've changed," they said. "You're not the same person who dreamed with us on the street corner." Those words hurt him deeply, not because they were completely true, but because he realized he had strayed far from the life he once knew. Success had changed him in ways he never expected. Despite all these challenges, she never gave up on her goal. She started looking for ways to protect herself, sought advice from a mentor, and learned to make better choices. She started prioritizing her health and making time for exercise and rest, even if it was just a few hours a week. But the sacrifices she made were undeniable. She was well-funded, but at what cost? It's a question he's always thought about, a question that keeps him going, a reminder that success isn't just about wealth, it's about balance, competence, living high and living up to your values. As he entered his 40s, his thoughts began to change. The drive that had fueled his passion for years was still there, but now it came with a deeper sense of responsibility. He began to think not only about what he'd accomplished, but also about the impact he could leave behind. Philanthropy became an important part of his life. He began donating money to local schools to provide scholarships for students who were unable to get a college education. He remembers the struggles he faced during his education and wants others to have the opportunities he didn't have. He also invested in the community by opening educational centers to teach young people the skills they needed to succeed. Whether it was studying economics, managing finances, or starting a business, these places became beacons of hope for many who were once trapped in a cycle of poverty. Poor like him. As his power grew, he had a desire to inspire others. She began sharing her story with the public, speaking at events, and writing about her journey. It wasn't about her success, she spoke openly about her failures, her sacrifices, and the lessons she learned along the way. She would often say, "If I can do it, you can do it too." One of the highlights of her journey was being invited to visit the school she had donated money to build a library for. Tears welled up in her eyes when she walked into the room and saw the children reading books with wonder and amazement on their faces. She realized that her success wasn't just about the money she made, but also the impact she could make in people's lives. Over time, he began to withdraw from the day-to-day operations of the company. He placed his strength in trusted employees who mentored him and shared his vision. Although it wasn't easy to give up, he knew it was the right decision. He wanted to focus on what was important: his family, his community, and his legacy. In the years that followed, he often reflected on his journey. He remembered the nights he was in debt, the rejections he encountered, and the moments when failure seemed inevitable. But he remembered the small victories, the risks he took, and the people who believed in him when no one else did. The story itself is a testament to the power of perseverance, hard work, and self-belief. He didn't think he was special. He believed anyone, with the right mindset and determination, could achieve great things. He felt fulfilled when he saw his grandchildren playing in the yard of the house he built. It not only changed his life, it created a legacy that will last for generations. His legacy is not only in the wealth he has accumulated, but in the lives he has impacted, the opportunities he has created, and the example he has set for others. This story is not just about rags to riches. It shows that as long as you stay true to yourself and your dreams, the journey is worth it no matter where you start. As he sits on his porch, a symbol of his journey, looking out at the sunset under the sky, he reflects not only on the life he has built, but also on the news. His rags to riches journey was more than just about success. It broke boundaries, shattered barriers, and blazed a trail where there was no trail. It is proof that the human spirit, fueled by perseverance and determination, can overcome the most difficult challenges. This story reminds us that every step, no matter how small, brings us closer to the life of our dreams. It is the power of vision and the belief that we are capable of more than we ever thought possible. Now, it's your time to shine. What will your story be? What dream are you striving to pursue? Wherever you start, and however impossible the journey may seem, remember that greatness is built on courage, perseverance, and an unwavering belief in yourself. At Lord Ethan Stories, we bring you stories like these, not only to inspire, but to touch something within you. These are stories of ordinary people achieving extraordinary things, showing that the inadequacies we face are often ones we impose on ourselves. If this story has inspired you, or fueled your desire to create your own legend, subscribe for more stories from Lord Ethan. Let's celebrate the power of desire, perseverance, and amazing journeys that remind us that anything is possible. This is not the end, it's just the beginning. Your journey begins now,